Tonight, we begin with a story that sent shockwaves across the globe, from the corridors of power in Washington, D.C., to the bustling factory floors of Detroit. It's a story that would reshape the way America does business, and challenge the very foundation of global trade as we know it. The Trump administration's decision to impose sweeping tariffs on steel and aluminum marked a dramatic and controversial shift in American trade policy. For decades, the U.S. had championed free trade, but now, the rules were changing. A 25% tariff on imported steel was suddenly in effect, sending ripples through international markets and raising questions about America's new direction. And with a 10% tariff on aluminum, the message was clear. A new era had begun, one defined by the slogan, America First. These tariffs weren't just abstract numbers on a spreadsheet, they were the opening shots in what many would soon call a global trade conflict, with consequences that would be felt far beyond America's borders. The goal was ambitious: make foreign goods more expensive, give American manufacturers a fighting chance, and protect U.S. jobs that had been disappearing for years. But not everyone was convinced. Critics, including economists and business leaders, warned of a looming trade war, higher costs for American companies, and the risk of retaliation from trading partners. There were real fears that these policies could backfire, threatening the very industries they were meant to help, and putting American jobs at even greater risk. The auto industry, in particular, found itself in the crosshairs. Deeply reliant on global supply chains, automakers suddenly faced uncertainty about where their parts would come from and how much they would cost. Would these tariffs spark a renaissance in American manufacturing, bringing new life to cities like Detroit and restoring pride in "Made in the USA"? Or would they lead to higher prices for consumers, layoffs for workers, and a new wave of economic anxiety across the country? In the coming scenes, we'll explore how this bold policy hit Michigan's economy, an economy built on cars, steel, and the hard work of generations. We'll hear from Detroit's factory workers who suddenly found their livelihoods on the line, and from auto executives forced to make tough decisions in a rapidly changing world. This is a story of challenge, adaptation, and the relentless search for stability in uncertain times. A story that's still unfolding, and one that will shape the future of American industry for years to come. To understand the tariffs, we need to look at the motivations behind them. The Trump administration argued that unfair trade deals had cost America thousands of manufacturing jobs. By taxing imported steel and aluminum, they aimed to make U.S. materials more attractive and revive domestic industries. National security was cited. A strong steel industry was deemed essential for defense. This marked a sharp break from decades of free trade policies. The tariffs were also a bargaining chip, pressuring trading partners to renegotiate deals. The approach was bold, even confrontational: protectionism over open markets. Supporters called it overdue. Critics feared isolation and economic harm. The policy wasn't just about steel, it targeted cars and other goods too. The stage was set for fierce debate and uncertainty. When news of the tariffs broke, it sent immediate shockwaves through Michigan's auto industry, a sector that has long been the backbone of the state's economy. The announcement rippled through Detroit, a city synonymous with car manufacturing, and quickly became the talk of factory floors, boardrooms, and local businesses alike. Detroit's automakers and their vast network of suppliers braced for a new reality: higher costs on essential materials like steel and aluminum, which are the lifeblood of modern car production. For many, this meant rethinking budgets, renegotiating contracts, and preparing for a period of financial uncertainty. A modern car is a complex machine built from thousands of parts, many of them made from steel and aluminum. With tariffs in place, every vehicle rolling off the assembly line would now carry a major new expense, threatening to disrupt carefully balanced supply chains. Industry leaders quickly sounded the alarm, warning that these tariffs could make US-built cars significantly more expensive to produce. The added costs would ripple through the industry, affecting everything from design to delivery. Smaller suppliers, many of whom already operate on razor-thin margins, faced the greatest risk. For these family-owned businesses, even a small increase in material costs could mean the difference between staying open and shutting their doors for good. Rising costs didn't just threaten profits, they put jobs, future investments, and even the survival of some businesses on the line. Workers worried about layoffs, and managers scrambled to find ways to cut expenses without sacrificing quality. Automakers signaled that these higher production costs would almost certainly be passed on to consumers, meaning that new cars could soon come with noticeably higher price tags. The irony was hard to miss. Tariffs meant to protect American jobs now seemed poised to put many of those very jobs at risk. Union leaders and workers voiced their concerns, staging protests and demanding answers. In Michigan, where the auto industry is the economic engine that drives countless communities, the uncertainty was palpable. Local businesses that depend on the industry braced for a potential downturn. The entire ecosystem, from the largest automakers to the smallest family-owned parts shops, felt the pressure mounting, unsure of what the future would hold. Consumers too faced the prospect of paying more for their next vehicle, as dealerships prepared for a shift in pricing and demand. The future of Detroit's auto industry, once a symbol of American strength and innovation, suddenly looked far less certain, casting a long shadow over the city and its people. The auto industry's global supply chain is a marvel of efficiency, until tariffs disrupt it. For decades, automakers have relied on a seamless network that stretches across continents, with each link in the chain perfectly timed to keep production moving at a relentless pace. This intricate system built on trust and precision has allowed manufacturers to deliver millions of vehicles every year with remarkable speed and cost-effectiveness. Parts for a single car come from dozens of countries, arriving just in time for assembly. From German electronics to Japanese transmissions and Mexican wiring harnesses, every component is sourced for quality and price, then shipped to factories where they're assembled into the cars we drive every day. The new tariffs threw this system into chaos, raising costs and causing delays. Suddenly, shipments were held up at borders, and the price of essential materials soared, leaving factories scrambling to adapt. Smaller suppliers, often dependent on specialized foreign materials, were hit hardest. These businesses, which form the backbone of the industry, lacked the resources to absorb sudden cost increases or find alternative sources quickly. Many were locked into fixed-price contracts, unable to pass on higher costs. This meant shrinking profit margins, mounting debts, and tough decisions about layoffs, or even shutting down operations. The risk of bankruptcies and supply chain breakdowns grew. Each closure sent shockwaves through the network, threatening to halt production lines far beyond the original supplier. Just-in-time manufacturing, designed for speed and minimal waste, became vulnerable to even minor disruptions. What once was a strength, lean inventories and rapid turnaround, now exposed the industry to cascading failures from even a single missing part. Automakers faced unpredictable costs and uncertain material availability. Planning became a guessing game, with executives forced to make tough calls about production schedules and pricing. The tariffs aim to encourage domestic sourcing, but such transitions take years. Building new supplier relationships and ramping up local production isn't something that can happen overnight. In the short term, the industry faced logistical headaches and higher expenses. Warehouses overflowed with delayed shipments, and delivery schedules became increasingly unpredictable. Even cars built in Detroit relied on parts from around the world. The city's proud manufacturing legacy was now intertwined with a global web that could unravel at any moment. The system's efficiency was now its greatest weakness. What once powered the industry's success had become a source of fragility, leaving the future of auto manufacturing hanging in the balance. As industry concerns mounted, the administration offered relief. President Trump announced measures to prevent tariffs from stacking, avoiding a crippling cost spiral. A temporary credit for duties on imported parts used in U.S.-assembled vehicles was introduced. The goal gave automakers financial breathing room and encourage continued investment in American factories. The relief was targeted, helping U.S. production while maintaining the tough trade stance. It was a balancing act: support the industry without abandoning the core policy. The underlying steel and aluminum tariffs remained. The measures softened the blow but didn't eliminate it. For automakers, it was a welcome, if limited, reprieve. Their concerns were heard, but the fundamental challenges persisted. The relief was not a full solution. Uncertainty lingered. The industry's path forward remained unclear. The relief measures drew mixed reactions from industry and lawmakers. Some automakers welcomed the help, but most saw it as a temporary fix. The core problems, higher costs and supply chain disruption, remained. Short-term credits made long-term planning difficult. Lawmakers from manufacturing states called for more predictable trade policy. The piecemeal approach created instability, making it hard to invest or hire. Supporters saw the relief as pragmatic. Critics called it an admission of policy flaws. The debate over tariffs and their impact deepened. For Detroit, the relief was a brief pause, not a solution. The bigger questions about trade, costs, and competitiveness were unresolved. Despite relief, economic uncertainty hung over Detroit and the auto industry. The trade landscape was unpredictable, with hints of more tariffs to come. Businesses struggled to plan for the future, stalling investment and hiring. Steel and aluminum prices stayed high, raising the cost of building cars. Manufacturers faced a choice: absorb costs or pass them to consumers. Higher prices threatened vehicle sales, a blow to Michigan's economy. Workers worried about job security as companies hesitated to expand. The lack of stable policy made long-term bets on new technologies risky. Relief measures cushioned the blow, but didn't solve the core issues. The industry remained in limbo, navigating a volatile climate. The road ahead was foggy, with no clear end in sight. The tariffs were part of a bigger vision: bring manufacturing back to America. The goal was to make the U.S. more self-sufficient and less reliant on foreign supply chains. The auto industry was central to this reshoring strategy. Policies aimed to push automakers to source more parts domestically. The long-term vision: a robust American supply network, less dependent on imports. Economic policy was linked to national security. A strong industrial base meant a strong country. Critics argued that global supply chains made manufacturing more efficient and affordable. Forcing rapid domestic sourcing could raise costs and spark trade retaliation. The debate over reshoring was about America's economic direction. Detroit's experience became a key battleground in this struggle. The story of tariffs and Detroit's auto industry reveals the complexity of global trade. The policy aimed to protect jobs but exposed the fragility of interconnected economies. For the auto sector, sudden policy shifts created turbulence and uncertainty. Stability and predictability are essential for investment, innovation, and job creation. As Detroit faces technological change, a stable policy environment is more crucial than ever. The debate over protectionism versus open markets continues to shape America's future. Detroit's resilience endures, but the quest for stability goes on. The future of American industry depends on finding the right balance.